This program is brought to you by Zenus, leading the Optimum Wellness movement in body and spirit with nature.
My whole purpose is to get people off of their drugs and get them to live a healthy life.
It's such a miracle. I mean, this is dollar for dollar. Best stuff I've ever had in my office.
Welcome to yet another edition of the Wellness Express on the Airtime American Network. My name is Anthony, and joining me once again is my great friend, Doug Widdifield, educator and author of that book you must have, Life for Grave Danger. He is also the president and CEO of Zenus Global Health. Remember, the consultation here is free. We're backed by Nature's Pharmacy, and your journey to wellness can be all yours. It just begins with your mindset. You can also give us a call at 702-540-5668 for questions, comments, and of course your ongoing interest in the best of whole food nutritional supplements. Doug, once again, we're back for our fifth show. It is always great to hear your dulcet tones. How are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Anthony. How are you?
You know, I'm doing quite well, considering we're heading into, can you believe it, it's another holiday season, which is just around the corner. You know, we talk an awful lot about wellness, but, you know, we're in a very difficult period of the year for a lot of people where mindsets could be the source of so many toxins and poisons. Can you give people an idea how these play out in this concept of wellness that you and I so deeply believe in?
Well, you know, and you're absolutely right. You know, statistically speaking, there's more suicides. The rate goes up significantly during the holiday season. This is where people suffer from a lot of these, you know, their loss of a loved one could be, or it could be fear of abandonment, or, you know, unresolved issues, fear, anxiety, worry. It's interesting, too, because, you know, years ago, the caveman didn't have a word to depict worry, Anthony. So what they did is they would draw a picture on the wall of their cave, and it was a picture of a wolf sinking his fangs into a man's throat. And that's really what worry is. It's you lose your oxygen. It suffocates you. The same effect as a wolf sinking his fangs into your throat. And all of these mindsets are triggering devices for a lot of different degenerative and chronic conditions.
Understanding that we're all snowflakes, as we like to say in the wellness sector, that we all have different needs, but at the same time, there is a level of human equilibrium where nutrition feeds into mental illness and vice versa. How does that all impact this concept of wellness that we both share?
Oh, well, that's an interesting question and a good question. Most of our emotions are, at the end of the day, wrapped around our adrenal system. Our adrenals in the body monitors and controls the chemistry in the body. For example, you show me somebody that got road rage, and I can pretty well guarantee that he's got a compromised adrenal system. And what happens? Your adrenals usually become compromised when they're lacking specific nutrients, primarily those of B minerals or trace minerals. So they're finding now a lot of times people that have emotional issues, if they're given certain mineral supplement, organic mineral supplements, you find that they can address and help to restore the balance where they're no longer having those challenges. You take things like more neurological challenges, like what we refer to as bipolar. Now, they use lithium, and they find lithium, which is a mineral, is able to help so many people with bipolar. It's a matter of fact, it's a major modality. However, they don't use an organic lithium. And what I would suggest is that if you were using something like a lithium orotate or something that's more natural and organic in nature, that because it's 100% bioavailable, it would have a much more profound effect. Not only would it work better, but it would last much longer for people with some of these challenges. Again, it's minerals and trace minerals, but the only minerals and trace minerals that can function in the body, whether it be human or animal, have to be organic in nature.
Doug, one of the things that we have in the wellness sector is a certain lexicon, the way we communicate, words and phrases that we use. For somebody who hasn't heard that term bioavailable before, what does that mean?
Bioavailable simply means something that will be accepted into the cell, and it goes back to when I talk about organic minerals. And scientifically, you can look at minerals, whether they're organic or inorganic, and science will tell you that they're the same, but they're not the same. You see, any of the minerals found in the soil are inorganic and can't be used at a cellular level by the body. Only those minerals that have been taken up through the roots of a plant gone through a process called photosynthesis and converted using nitrogen from inorganic to organic now can be used at a cellular level. The cells are very, very rigid in their demanding the exact compound, the exact credentials of every molecule that comes its way. And if it's not in total harmony with its needs, in other words, being organic in nature, it can never get into that cell. And that's why so often there's mineral supplements out there that are inorganic in nature. And matter of fact, they can cause more harm than anything because inorganic minerals are one of the chief culprits for premature aging and can cause all kinds of inflammatory conditions. So what we want is the organic minerals that are 100% bioavailable. So anything in nature, like our plants, give off organic minerals. Animals that eat those plants are another source of organic minerals. Does that make sense?
Folks, you're listening to the Wellness Express here on the Airtime America Network. My name is Anthony. I'm here with Doug Widdifield, where the consultation is free. We are backed by Nature's Pharmacy. If you haven't called us to get on board with these wonderful products, call us at 702-540-5668. Somebody will be there to take your call, and make sure you do get Life or Grave Danger when you place that order. It will give you a great introduction to this movement. Doug, I want to get into that book real quickly, and it's in the first chapter of the book. How do we know what's good for us?
I go right back to the father of modern medicine, which is Hippocrates. He gave us the Hippocratic Oath. But he also made a statement so profound that it's replayed every day by people in the natural health arena. And that's simply, let food be your medicine. Let medicine be your food. Because I believe that our Creator, depending on your religious persuasion, or, if you're non-religious and you believe that we were a creation just of nature, the body is such a perfect piece of equipment that it defies logic that with that perfect piece of equipment that we weren't given everything to support it, sustain it in wellness, health, joy, vitality, energy. And that always comes in the form of our fruits, our vegetables, and our herbs. And that's the place that we get all of our medicine from. As I mentioned, of synergistically blending all the key components into a molecular structure that's recognized by the cell as being in harmony with its needs. So it's taken into the cell where the cell remanufactures the enzymes for specific functions in the body, whether it's healing or for whatever it wants to do.
One of the things that I've really come to appreciate and really respect, it's this idea, Doug, that we have been misled for so long by institutions who presume to, run our healthcare industry, that we almost have to undo some wiring here because we have been raised in this relationship with our doctors that everything comes from the top down. But on the wellness side of things, we have to almost rewire ourselves to believe something different. Over time, you acquired so much information, but I'm curious as to when you recognized that the healthcare system wasn't for me, that there was something more there that needed to be explored.
Well, that's a good question. And I don't think that there is a definitive time that I can think of. Even as a child, we learned an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But one of the things that I become aware of is that the only people that go to see doctors are people that are sick. So the healthcare end of it always I found confused. It wasn't really healthcare, it was more sickness care. And then even the word care is a little loose because in most cases, what I discovered is that all of these severe degenerative and chronic conditions that my doctor, anybody's doctors involved, I'm talking about in conventional medicine, the causes are not only untouched, but they're unknown. So they call them incurable diseases of which there's no known cure. And yet there's people day in and day out and have for centuries been able to overcome some of these incurable challenges, but they don't typically do it with modern medicine. They do it through any number of other things. But what I discovered and came to believe is that the body is the only instrument capable of healing.
Yep.
Once you accept the fact that the body does the healing, and so the body really drives everything. It's, our immune system. And so it made me aware that the best defense is a good offense. I believe that every one of us have cancer cells in us, that the body keeps all those things in check so we never become aware of the fact that they're there. Let me give you an example. We had a dog years back that got mites. And I thought we were going to lose that dog. I come to discover in doing research, all dogs have mites, but they keep them in check. The immune system keeps them in check. And it's only when that immune system is compromised or weakened that all of a sudden they're loud. It's like opening the gate. And I think it's the same thing holds true with diseases like cancer. For example, we all have cancer, but I think that it takes certain things that will trigger that cancer. And smoking could be one. Excessive poisons is one. Mindsets, stress, anxiety, worry, fear that we were talking about, all of those things bring down and compromise the body's immune system. And once that immune system is compromised, it allows these things, we let them out of the corral. And all of a sudden now we get into where we've got to turn around and we've got a condition that we have to deal with. So I think that healthcare is really more being proactive so that we don't become that person that had to deal with cancer. And if we don't do that and we become the person that has to deal with cancer, I think that we have to deal with it in a way that makes more sense than what we're doing now, not adding more poisons to the system, but rather helping the body restore balance by eliminating those poisons out of the system.
To take this full circle, go right back to that point about mindsets. If we have to do all this rewiring because we have a medical profession that's treating symptoms rather than solutions, just consider the fear that's built into the system to keep people attached, I guess, to this disease care system. So if we're only treating symptoms, what are we actually treating, Doug?
That's all we're doing is treating symptoms. If you're talking about conventional medicine, it's about educating. People can only make good choices based on having good information. Doctors, the word doctor comes from an old Greek word means to teach. So their job should be to educate, not to medicate, because every prescription drug or medication that they give you comes with a side effect. And the side effect is simply the body's intelligence telling you, listen, that's not in harmony with my needs. And it can cause more damage. And the side effects associated with some of these prescription medication are so insidious that they could be worse than the original challenge that you were dealing with to start with.
Folks, you are listening to the Wellness Express with Doug Widdifield, brought to you by the fine people at Zenus Global Health. Check out the website at zenusglobalhealth.com/information or give them a call at 702-540-5668. Remember, the consultation is always free. We're backed by Nature's Pharmacy. We're going to talk more about the insidious nature of diseases. We often do. Don't forget more of the host resistance hotline today. Doug and I will come back in just a bit to talk more about our healthcare system and who are the culprits. Exactly. Who are the culprits behind the system that has so many people, I guess, confused and even misled? Come right back.
The Optimum D-Tox is absolutely an incredible product. You know, right now, the supplemental industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. But the fact of the matter is that if you don't address the cleansing aspect, the detoxifying aspect of it, most of these products, as good as they are not being used effectively. So in other words, you're just throwing your money away. You're just not getting the benefits, or you're getting certainly not all the benefits that you should be getting.
I would literally want to lie in bed for way past the alarm clock, way past when I should get up and get going. I was tired and I was definitely lethargic and kind of sluggish. You know, my system wasn't running well.
I love to be able to give this to patients and know the various effects that it has on them without the negative side effects that you have with drugs.
When I was retired in 1991, I felt 90 years old. I subsequently reversed all my health problems.
I had acid reflux really, really bad. And within 3 days, I was able to get completely off of all acid reflux pills. And then as an afterthought, about 8 months later, I noticed, I wasn't keeping track of my weight or anything, but I realized that I had lost about 40 pounds. So it's been pretty amazing.
It actually makes me feel a lot better when I get up in the morning. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm not sluggish anymore. It's like I get up and it's like, okay, I'm ready to start my day and get out the door and let's go do things. And whereas before it would take me a good hour to get out of the house. I'd have to wake up 2 hours at a time just to get out of the house.
It's an abundance of natural occurring vegetable steroids. And these are steroids that are not to be confused with anabolic or chemical steroids that athletes use. What they do is they act as a catalyst to speed up the activity of the friendly flora, which is the aerobic bacteria in the system. And what these bacteria then do is they come forth in greater numbers, produce up to 60,000 times more digestive enzymes. So a lot of the foods that we've eaten that have impacted themselves, so we've got all this buildup of toxins in the system, it's able to break that down into tiny little particles that the body can now eliminate, excrete.
And one of the immediate results that I saw is that it did help the patients much quicker in their recovery. That's why I made it a routine part of all of my patients, and I actually prescribe this for every single patient that comes through the door. I give them their first bottle, so they'll have it. I have them start on it right away.
That's just part of the Optimum D-Tox story. Learn more about this remarkable product at zenusglobalhealth.com. Welcome back to the Wellness Express. My name is Anthony. As you know, this is the Host Resistance Hotline brought to you by the fine people at Zenus HQ. Get on the line at 702-540-5668 and do it now, not next week, not next month, but do it now. Get the detox formula endorsed by more doctors and naturopaths than any other on the market today. Joining me for a moment here on the hotline is Jim Ferguson from California. Jim, welcome to the show. Tell us what brought you to Zenus and Optimum D-Tox.
Well, hey, Anthony, appreciate the time. I got a quick little story. I've put together a program to kind of segment the market of the baby boomer. 80 million boomers, of which I'm one. And, we've had a lot of health issues, a lot of, weight issues that brought on health issues. And it seems that we've got a generation that is really, declining. Statistics say that our parents are going to have a lifespan longer than the baby boomer generation. And to me, that's crazy. So I put a program together a few years ago that kind of addressed the issues of the baby boomer in the exercise world. And through those travels, I went to a meeting, and the featured speaker was a gentleman by the name of Doug Widdifield. And it was a pretty intimate meeting, about 6 or 8 of us. And I just felt like, wow, this guy is absolutely talking to me. I mean, this is exactly what I'm looking for. It was like, whoa, let me, take me, I want it. I'm a casual golfer, and my hands had generated some arthritis in it. And I play real early in the morning, and there's no time to really warm up. And I was really contemplating giving up golf. Doug talked about, one of the benefits is the inflammation that it could give you some relief on. And whenever I start something like this, I'm very, very good about taking it. Somebody says, take this, and 2 or 3 days later, I'm off it. Now, I stick to the plan. So I was doing my 2 times a day, 7-8 drops religiously, never missed a day. And actually, I haven't missed a day almost in 2 years now. But the bottom line was, all of a sudden, I show up at the golf course, and my hands don't hurt. I thought, God, what's different today? And I wasn't really thinking of it. And from that point on, and now that was January of 15. So it'll be 2 years in January. And in that period of time, my sleep has increased. My digestive system seems great. My inflammation, I used to wear a little neoprene brace on my knee. Haven't worn that in 2 years. And I just have a better overall general sense of health. To me, it's the simplest thing that one can do. My past life, I was in the financial service business, and we talked investments to people. Let me tell you, this is the best investment you can make in yourself for such a nominal amount of money. So if you're really concerned about, staying healthy, getting healthy, I highly recommend Optimum D-Tox.
Optimum D-Tox to me is really, I call it the gateway drug to Zenus Global Health. I always have. I think that's the formula that everyone seems to gravitate around. But you mentioned something about baby boomers. And what I notice with baby boomers, more so than any other generation before it, do you get the sense that maybe we're starting to question the healthcare system more than any other before it?
Well, no, Anthony, I agree 100%. And it's, there's still those that will just say, there's a pill for this. I'll go to my doctor. I'll treat it this way. I'm kind of the belief that you cannot buy the insurance when the house is on fire. So you have to be proactive.
Right.
I mean, it's a day-to-day deal. And the older we get, those days, become a little bit numbered. the pharma world. I've had a son that got mixed up in that pill for this, a pill for that, and it's horrible. I think there's a groundswell of people that are saying, you know what? Maybe there is something else out there, because we've done all these things to make our foods bigger, better, faster, hopefully more nutritional. And I think we're kind of struck out there. And I think we've gone into a society of, we want it now.
Yeah.
I agree with you in the gateway segment of Doug's products. I've gotten on a second product of his called Power, and I love that. People want this, 5-hour energy type of boost. I want a consistent daily boost. I want to feel better at the end of the day. Here it's almost, 3 o'clock. I've been up almost, 12 hours today, and I'm still going strong. So that's my motto is to get something and do it natural. I probably, in the course of a year, maybe go through a little bottle of Advil or something for the year.
What was it in Doug's message about wellness that made you go, aha, maybe I got to take a look at this?
Well, I think, we look at our, as I talked before, the processed foods, the pollution, the stress. Our bodies weren't designed to, operate in this environment. And so we plug ourselves into these prescription world, which I'm one that has not, but a lot of people have, that responsibility unto ourselves to stay healthy. They talk about, the medical cost spiraling. Well, the greatest way to, minimize that is stay healthy. Don't have to go to the doctor. Don't have to take the prescriptions. So, it's a responsibility. Some will do it, some won't. But the idea about the Optimum D-Tox, this is kind of the lazy man's way to health. If you're not going to do anything else, try this.
Right.
Don't try for 30 days, 60. You got to do a minimum of 90 and beyond. I had a situation last year. I lost 5 friends to cancer, all of them in their 50s and early 60s. Brilliant people, all the money in the world, could chase down any doctor, any clinic, flew all over the world to try to nip this stuff. And there's wonderful advancements in medicine. Now, I don't want to be the cancer survivor. I want to be the guy that never got cancer. So I have to invest in myself. I've got my wife on it. I've got my future son-in-law. I've got my future daughter-in-law. I've got, people that I've introduced to it. They watch the video. They say, wow, does this thing really work? I talked to a guy today, Anthony, that was one of the stars of, there'll be some people on here that'll know these teams, but was one of the stars of the UCLA basketball heyday in the 60s and early 70s with, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and where Coach Wooden won 10 odd, NCAA championships. And this guy, awesome guy, neighbor of mine, and he's been banged up. His body has been battered and bruised, and I got him on this 90 days ago, and I saw him, he stopped me and said, hey, Jim, I got to get some more of those drops. Where do I get them? He said, I'm feeling good. I've been sick in 90 days. And he's a cancer survivor, lost a child to cancer. If I were wearing a white coat and I said to take this, you'd buy it all day long. That's the credibility. There is an alternative. It's an affordable, it's portable. It really is kind of the perfect supplement. People just have to believe it, and they have to try it, and they have to educate themselves a little bit to the understanding of the story that Doug talks about on the video is wonderful. The most durable plant in the world has created an opportunity for us to maintain our health.
It's interesting you mentioned the guys in the white coats, because I find it remarkable just how many medical doctors, naturopaths, what have you, recommend Optimum D-Tox, but more importantly, how men are grasping this product, because as you know, being a guy, we think we're indestructible, like nothing can get to us. How do you approach this to a man who looks healthy, but may not be well, that may not recognize that I need Optimum D-Tox to improve my quality of life? What is that conversation like for you?
I approach it this way, and told you earlier that I had a financial service background. So that involved insurance products and involved financial products. There was an old saying in the insurance industry was, hey, you look pretty good on the outside, but we got to check your inside before we can get you this policy or whatever.
Yeah,
we're all vulnerable. I don't care who you are. My biggest fear, Anthony, because I've got too much more to accomplish in my life, I can't afford to get sick. I don't want to wake up and have that lump. There's no guarantees, but I feel I'm doing a service to myself and to my family and to my business partners every day that I take my Optimum D-Tox. I'm defending my current health. I've been fortunate to have good health, but I'm not taking it for granted. You got to develop that attitude. That old, when do I buy the insurance, before or after? It's a heck of a lot easier to buy it before.
It's the old Fram oil commercial. You can pay me now or you can pay me later. And I'm totally with you on that. Yeah. No question. And by the way, I am so glad, Jim, to hear you passing on the knowledge, because the greatest gift that we can give to another person is the gift of wellness. And you are certainly doing that. I want to thank you so much for your time today on the Host Resistance Hotline. I hope we can do it again real soon.
Anthony, I appreciate it, buddy. Good wellness to everyone.
Once again, I want to thank Jim Ferguson for his insights here on the Host Resistance Hotline. Remember, whatever is possible is just a phone call away, 702-540-5668, and just do something important for yourself, not next week, not next month. But now I want to bring on a very, very special person, somebody who I've looked forward to having on the show for a very long time. Her name is Krystyna Widdifield. She is a co-founder of Zenus Global Health. This is the Host Resistance Hotline. Krystyna, welcome to the show at last. How are you?
Thank you, Anthony. Good to be here with you.
Great to have you. And I got to say up front, you are very instrumental in bringing this company forward. We don't say it enough. And I wanted to have you on the show to talk a little bit about some of the key things that you've noticed over the years with Zenus and the wellness industry, as well as pets. I know I've heard your husband talk many, many times about what formed this company and what its inspiration was. But for you, talk to me a little bit about the inspiration and what it meant to you.
Well, it started in 1993 when I met my husband in Toronto, Canada. I was living in Palm Springs, California. My mother was dying from a debilitating disease, the big C, and I happened to be in Toronto taking care of her, and my brother was instrumental in introducing the products Doug had and sent over to the hospital that I was administering her these products, and noticed, although she was in the final stages of her disease, I noticed that she was getting tremendous cleansings because I tended to her each and every day and made her organic meals and everything else. So I investigated further, and of course I met Doug in person, and it was like a Cinderella story. We immediately connected on similarities that we both had, and having our moms both go through this horrendous disease, and had that commonality that started our long distance telephone relationship. And 2 months later we were married, beautiful Vancouver, Canada. Our ceremony was actually predicated on the fact that we acknowledged that our moms brought us together. We both committed to being our life's mission, that of making sure that information got out to people so that they would know that there are alternative things that they could do. And that was 24 years ago. So it's been a very beautiful spiritual journey all the way. And I'm happy to say that both my husband and I are both actually products of our products. People say every day that we keep looking younger all the time. People that haven't seen us for a long time have seen pictures of us and say, gosh, you guys aren't aging at all. And I feel very strongly, believe wholeheartedly that I owe our youth, vitality, energy levels, everything to these wonderful products, especially the Yucca, the Optimum D-Tox. I wouldn't be a day without it. Over the years, I've talked to thousands and thousands of people along the way and heard their stories, heard their testimonials. Really is very rewarding to us to know that we have helped so many.
I mean, you know every little detail about your customers. It's remarkable to me, after the number of years you've been in the business, just how well you know these folks. Talk to people again about what it's been like for you at some of the most difficult periods. And it's not because of the business, it's because of the, human cost that cancer has placed on our society. It really has affected you.
We're like snowflakes. No two of us are alike. So you have to really study the individual and their habits and their lifestyle, and also their mindsets will determine how they'll respond, or some of the things that you can suggest to them. But I concentrate a lot on mindsets, because people's mindsets have so much to do with their healing ability and progress. if they're in fear, if they have unresolved issues, whether it's emotional, stress, all of those things have such a bearing on being a detriment to their healing process. So I work on their emotions, get them to share with me and release some of these things that they're hanging on to, because I feel that's very, very important in the healing process. It touches me greatly at times when we can't help people, and equally so when we can.
Obviously, when you have a business interest that's gone on for as long as you have at Zenus, there are great milestones that happen along the way. And some of those are marked by the great people you get to meet, some of the folks that maybe didn't make it, maybe didn't reach your products in time. I'd like to go back to that moment when you got involved with the People's Republic of China, where your company and your formulas really started to take off. They started to get the kind of validation that most wellness programs don't ever get or ever get close to reaching. And what that meant to you internally about what you were saying and what you were putting together in terms of the Zenus formulas?
Well, again, that was a very exciting time, especially when we got to meet the Federal Ministry of Health and the Deputy Minister of Health, who was a woman, and it was their first actual visit to the West. And so they were very curious, and I especially enjoyed the woman. First of all, she connected with me, even though there was a language barrier, but there was still that communication, the unsaid word. And she grabbed my hand, and through her interpreter, she was very curious and interested in how lifestyle was for women here in the West. So we gave them all Western names. Her name, we called her Maria, and she never left my side. She just held my hand, and there was that connection. And I felt, people are people from every part of the world, and there's never a disconnect because of language. An expression of feelings like hugging, and that was so special. That stood out for me the most. And of course, the rest of the entourage as well, but especially with her in her high capacity.
It's a brilliant time for you folks at Zenus, and I've got to also say you've been way ahead of the curve on another thing that I think needs to be acknowledged. I mean, going back a couple of decades now, you put together this company, Zenus, with the idea of people, pets, and planet. We talk an awful lot about people and wellness, and with good reason, but there's also an issue about the planet. And there's also another bigger issue for you, which has to do with pets and their wellness. The veterinarian, as we know, has often been known as the person that we turn to when our pet is extremely ill or somehow got injured. But more and more, this veterinarian is also being known as the person to who you go to keep your pet healthy. And the importance of pets in our lives is so, so important. And the cost to keep them healthy is just as astronomical as it is with people. Go back into what drove you so much into the pets, even detoxing them with a product very similar to Optimum D-Tox for pets. It really was way ahead of its time.
Pets are, of course, very close to my heart. Anyone that has pets knows how I feel. And, of course, you as well, Anthony, because I know you're a pet lover. And pets...
Oh, big pet lover. Love my pets.
Oh, and they're such a blessing in our lives. And reports show that they extend our lives. And no matter whether you're a single person, a couple, or a family, pets bring such a dimension into your life. Of course, they become a member of your family, but there comes a responsibility. You're responsible for their well-being, their safety, and their health. So it's important that when you consider getting a pet, that you be committed to financial responsibility of taking care of them health-wise. There's various commitments that one has to make, but the rewards of having a pet are just undescribable. They're just unbelievable. But with us, many years ago, when we got our first pair of male and a female Papillon back in 1999, I think it was, a male Jessie and a female BB, and they were just incredible little furry babies. And they have a history of longevity, but very early on when we got BB, she was 1.5 years, and 3 weeks after we got her, she stopped eating and drinking. So we immediately took her to the vet. And upon diagnosing her, they discovered that she had a liver condition that they couldn't address and they couldn't help. And so all they could do was give her intravenous fluids, and told my husband there wasn't anything else that they could do for her. So we both cried. And at the time we had our 4 herbal tea and our yucca product, which we started administering to her. We had nothing else to lose but to try it. So within 24 hours, she started responding. It was unbelievable. I still have the lab reports. This was in 1999. I kept the lab reports because it was such a miraculous healing process event. And within 10 days, her liver enzyme count went from 3,300 down to 180. Or 150, I can't remember, without referring to the reports. Not only did she survive, but she lived till she was almost 18. And every single day, both of them got their yucca drops.
Right.
Jesse, unfortunately, we lost him a little bit earlier when he was 15 to, we call it a sports injury. He dislocated his shoulder, had surgery, and there were complications involved afterwards. But Bibi, who wasn't expected to live, lived another 17 years, very healthy and vibrant. So that, again, is a testimonial that animals don't have a placebo effect. When they get something, they respond, especially with older dogs that slow down and they have hip problems and arthritis and all those various things. Well, within weeks, you'll notice that they almost become puppy-like in their actions and motions.
Yeah, when they're well, they are definitely very, very active, and there's like a joy with an animal when it's healthy that can't be faked by an animal. They just are what they are. In talking about all this, though, Krystyna, even the National Institutes of Health are now writing about the wellness factor for pets because they have a clear impact on our health. To me, that just seems like a no-brainer.
Well, I'm just grateful that the awareness is there. People, if you look at statistics, are actually spending more money on their pets than they are their children.
Right.
That tells you right there that there's an awareness now and the importance that people place on their pets. Whereas in the past, maybe people abandoned pets that were unhealthy, whereas now they take care of them. They spend, thousands of dollars to save a pet rather than letting them go. So the mindset in people has changed over the years. People recognize now that the pets are your constant companion. They're loyal. They are always there for you, no matter what you look like or what you do. They're always there. You can always count on them. And they give you unconditional love. And that is so invaluable.
Last question here, Krystyna, here on the Host Resistance Hotline, and we've got to talk more about pets. We really do, and I hope we do in the future. But, as we look at the evolution of, pet wellness, there's certainly been just a general evolution in how people look at their wellness over the years, and you've been at the forefront of this for a number of years. If you can, lead people into what you've observed in those years, where you started and where people are now in terms of looking at wellness beyond healthcare. This is a very, very different world, isn't it?
Well, it is, because people are getting more informed. They're taking responsibility for their own health, because you can't put the stress on your caretaker who has many other people that they're looking after, and it's stressful on them. So one must always take full responsibility for your own body, for your own decisions, your own health decisions, and also believe in whatever modality that you choose, because that is going to be the determining factor. You have to believe in what you're doing, regardless of what it is, but it has to be your decision completely and not anyone else's.
Folks, this lady's name is Krystyna Widdifield. She's the co-founder of Zenus Global Health. When you make a call at 702-540-5668, if you've done that recently or if you intend to do so, and I hope you do, you will more than likely get to know her quite well. Krystyna, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. I want to bring you on more and more, but I know how busy you are, keeping that company busy and moving forward. But will you come on more frequently and talk about pets? Because I think it's something we need to do.
Yes, Anthony, it was delightful talking to you today.
Toxins create disease. They are everywhere. In our food. In the air we breathe. In our homes. At our places of work.
Heavy metals accumulate in our systems every day, causing numerous health problems that can seriously impact every major organ in our bodies.
Once toxic heavy metals have entered our bodies, they are stored in our organs, tissues and bones.
We also know that metal toxicity is often derived from all kinds of environmental threats, from medications or in the course of work or play. But no matter the origin, studies now show that heavy metals in the body may be implicated to Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, behavioral problems, kidney dysfunction, epilepsy, and even paralysis.
Are you toxic? The answer is yes. We are all toxic.
So this is precisely why you should be looking at whole food formulas such as chelate as a low-risk prevention alternative. Take a moment to consider your lifestyle, to consider your exposure to heavy metal toxins at home, at your workplace, and in your everyday life. So what do you need to know about lead, aluminum, and mercury in your environment? Well, actually, it's plenty.
Our bodies can't eliminate them without help.
Toxins create disease, we all know that, but heavy metal toxins are now directly linked again to Parkinson's, MS, all forms of cancer, and a host of other degenerative and neurological disorders.
But now, you can do something about it.
And that's precisely where chelate comes in. So make it your first choice whole food supplement to remove these elements.
Start detoxing today.
Detoxify with chelate, the strongest whole food detoxifying agent for heavy metals. Take the first step in destroying this silent killer today. Hey folks, welcome back to the Wellness Express with Doug Widdifield here on the Airtime American Network. My name is Anthony, and we are back. The consultation is free. Everything we do here is backed by Nature's Pharmacy. Just give us a call at 702-540-5668. You got to begin this wellness journey today, folks. Don't wait till next week, next month, or next year. Start now. Listen, Doug, speaking with a doctor quite recently, and I was asking him a number of questions just to test my own belief system, and better yet, just to kind of uncover what the basic belief system is with a doctor. And I'm left with the basic question. If going to the doctor was so good for you, why are we so much in fear of them every time we go to see one? I think our body's internal wisdom may be telling us something.
I mean, you look at right now, the number of people that are dying from heart disease, the people dying from cancer. Listen to this, Anthony. It's horrible. We're losing between 200,000 and 300,000 people every year, just in North America. People dying from the insidious side effects associated with prescription medication. So many of the doctors are being incentivized to prescribe them. So they're making money for prescribing them. The drug companies are manufacturing them at an unbelievable rate, making huge profits, all at the expense of human lives. And that's all part of what we call our health care system. There's nothing healthy about what they're doing at all. And I think it was the last segment, and I was quite vocal in how I look at all this. I look at these pharmaceutical companies as just legal drug cartels. They're legalized because we got lawmakers that don't want to stand up to them because they're in bed with them, because they take money from them through their lobbies so that they can stay in power. And the doctors, bless their heart, there's a lot of them now. Matter of fact, we'll be speaking to a group of about 400 doctors in the very near future, medical doctors that have all got together and decided that they no longer want to practice allopathic or conventional medicine. They're jumping ship to start practicing more natural medicine. Matter of fact, I've been approached to even talk to them, So they're looking at setting up some protocols by which they can help their patients. Because at the end of the day, what we're practicing is the farthest thing from healthcare. It's simply disease care, and all they're doing for the disease is masking the symptoms. Think of it this way. You got a tire on your car that's got a slow leak. And every time you took it in to put air in it, they charge you a ton of money. Now, wouldn't it make more sense at some time to pull that tire off and put a patch on it, fix the tire so that it wasn't leaking air anymore? Same with the system. And what they do is they keep it going because of fear.
For real, yeah.
You know, if you don't do this, if you don't take this drug, you're going to die. If you don't do this, you're going to die. And so there's that fear built into it. And for some reason, we've been conditioned to think that these doctors have a halo and everything that they say is absolutely the gospel truth. Well, guess what? It just ain't so. Doctors are like mechanics. There's good ones and there's bad ones. And the good ones typically will tell you the side effects associated with the drugs. A lot of times they don't even know all the damage that those drugs are doing, you know, because they've been preconditioned through the schools that they've learned them through.
And quite frankly, some of these doctors are about as accurate as the weatherman. I almost feel like when I'm listening to you, Doug, that we need not only genuine change and real reform, we may need to go back to our ideals, right back to a Declaration of Independence, right? Pull up the old hood ornament on our nationalism and say, among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, look, life and liberty, pursuit of happiness, well, there's no life without health. There's no liberty without health. And quite frankly, we can't be happy without health. I think, you know, the way that this cash machine, this for-profit organization that we have that is fed by illness and injury, where does this all begin? Is this in the insurance companies? Because you hear time and time again that, you know, the insurance companies are underwriting this mess. Is it really there or is it someplace else?
You can go back to the origin of what we refer to as conventional or modern medicine, where you had your allopaths, which were your conventional type medicine, and then you had your naturopaths that were more holistic. The naturopaths, what they believed in was to give the body, almost like the inoculations, but give the body a little bit, what we refer to as hair of the dog, a little bit of it in a dead cell form, so the body would build up antibodies against it. And so they'd come up with homeopathic formulas that worked. They already understood that it was the body's wisdom that did the healing. Mm-hmm. They would simply help to condition the body to understand, well, this is something bad, so the body could build up an army or defense mechanism to fight it should it ever come in contact with it again. Again, what they do is they use all kinds of insidious, toxic carriers with it. So the inoculations that we're getting today are something to be, feared. Then again, allopathic medicine back then, conventional medicine, if you had a poison, they would cut you open and bleed you. And oftentimes you'd bleed to death to let the poison out. Or if you had a headache, they'd drill into your head to let the demons out. And so oftentimes the therapy resulted in death for the patient. So more and more patients were going to the naturopaths. And it wasn't until money entered into the equation where allopathic medicine made that departure and started to make some headway, because the money end of it did make a difference because it provided surgical procedures and things like that. And that's really where conventional medicine has made some real headway in diagnostics. I would suggest that some of the painkillers that we have in emergencies provide help, because let's assume that you were injured in a way that the pain was so horrendous that you were vulnerable to maybe cardiac arrest. So having the ability to control or lessen that pain at that time in a hurry makes some sense. But when you're using these drugs for long-term pain control, that's when you're violating nature, because the pain comes from inflammation. Inflammation only has two sources. One is joints or compressed nerves. The other one is where nerves are in contact with poisons or toxins. So often that just by eliminating poisons, you can eliminate pain. But certainly I can see the value in maybe having a painkiller for short term, but they tend to want to use drugs for long-term treatment of all conditions. Not only do they not work, but they actually will enhance the problem in a lot of the cases when you're dealing with degenerative or chronic conditions.
Doug, I get to a point in each one of these shows where, I learn something each and every time. I've learned more from your book about my body than I ever did from a doctor. So it begs the question, how scientific is medicine after they spend so much time dissecting the human body and learning about its function, but the practice of medicine? How scientific really is it? Because I don't learn anything when I go to a doctor. All I learn about is all the things I should be afraid of.
When we talk about being scientific, all you got to look at is the science going behind the cancer treatment. And again, you just look at the numbers. They come in and going to find a way of getting rid of cancer. And of course, it's been chemotherapy, surgery, and radiation ever since. And you look at where the numbers are today compared to where they were when they started. It was 1 out of 20 people would get cancer back then. And by the 40s, it was 1 out of 16. By the 70s, it was 1 out of 10. Then by the 90s, it was 1 out of 4 or 5. And now it's 1 out of 3. And 2 of them are going to die within 5 years. If you look at the numbers. And so how scientific is chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery, especially when 2 of the 3 are known to be known carcinogens? There's no science to that. It's skewed at best simply to try and separate patients from their money.
Doug, you also said something earlier, I think it was in the first segment, where, I think it was the word doctor meant teacher.
Correct.
And I remember things at my local doctor in my youth who had a little practice in town, and you'd go and see the doctor and do your checkups. They prescribed certain things to you that were pretty normal, pretty natural, like, well, what I'm going to recommend is a little bit of bed rest, or maybe changing this part of your diet. My local doctor was a wonderful old woman, and she would come up with some very basic formulas for staying healthy and staying well, and didn't prescribe all this medication. Where did this all go haywire? Where did this all go wrong?
Well, it was the advent of money into the system by the power brokers, the pharmaceutical companies. Once they got involved, they invested huge amounts of money into all kinds of equipment, and that some of it was good. I'm not saying it was all bad, but where they really challenged and made a difference that was insidious, I think the term for the worst, was when they were allowed to start creating drugs and doing all their own studies, and those studies were accepted by the FDA as being truthful, and so that they would approve all of these drugs, not knowing the long-term effects, and also when they were allowed to participate in our medical schools and in exchange for writing the curriculum. So all of the education that the doctors receive is totally skewed in favor of the drug companies, so that they're taught and conditioned to follow protocol with the drug companies, whose only interest is the bottom line. So it's all driven by corporate greed. And it goes back to, what I refer to as the golden rule. He who has the gold gets to make the rules.
Folks, you're listening to the Wellness Express here on the Airtime America Network with Doug Widdifield. Look, we're not working on the golden rule, at least the way we're interpreting it. The consultation is free because we're backed by Nature's Pharmacy. Again, give us a call, 702-540-5668. Begin your wellness journey today. You can do it. You can do it now. Just listen to my friend Doug and listen to the people at Zenus Global Health. You can find them, again, 702-540-5668, or visit the website at zenusglobalhealth.com/information. Doug, if I can draw back to another part of the conversation we had earlier in this segment, one of the things that always really caught my attention when I got to know you was just how many doctors you surround yourself with and how many doctors recommend your products. I haven't normally seen this, Doug, when I've dealt with doctors, but for some reason, doctors seem to gravitate around what your message is. Why is that, Doug? I find that so fascinating in the fact that you have maybe 300-400 doctors who are willing to come aboard and look at what you have to say. Does that almost give you a sense of, how do I say it, vindication? How do you feel when you see doctors grabbing onto your message and, even more important, your formulas?
Again, a good question. There's an old saying, you draw more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. What I typically find is that people with a little bit of knowledge in the natural health arena want to show off how smart they are when they're talking to their doctors and how bad they are. Well, most doctors got into the profession because they're natural health providers. They're caregivers. They want to help people. They didn't get in it just to make money. It's unfortunate, but they've been led down the garden path. But if you treat them respectfully and understand that they do have a lot of wisdom when it comes to how the body works, there's a lot of things that they know. That 7 years wasn't just about prescribing drugs. And so we have to treat them with respect. And I find that when you do that, you can disagree and so be respectful when you do it, and can start to change minds, because you find that most of them are already questioning what they're doing. But they don't want a person that doesn't have some credentials just to come in and tell them how bad they are and how wrong they are. That isn't the way that you get people on your side. And that's simply by building them up and giving them respect and treating them in a respectful manner. And then it start to explain why, because most often you'll find that they want to learn more. They've got that desire to help others. And so they're constantly looking for more information. They're not all satisfied with the status quo.
I've noticed that too, for sure.
And that's the way we bring them on stream, not to tell them that they're wrong, but rather to suggest them. Because I got people say, well, I got to run this by my doctor. Say, well, that's good. Here's the way to approach your doctor. Say, look, this is what I'm going to do is I want to try some natural modalities, but you're my primary healthcare physician, and I want you to be part of what I'm doing. So I would like to be able to depend on you to monitor me while I'm changing this regime, while I'm changing my protocol, and I want you to be able to monitor me to show how I'm progressing. Will you agree to stay on and be part of my team? And you'll find that the doctors are usually more than happy to do that, play that kind of a role. So I think that we shouldn't be knocking our doctors. We can be knocking the pharmaceutical companies, the drug companies. Those are the people that really, deserve being regaled on, because, again, they're just legalized drug cartels.
I want to echo what you just said there because I've run into some really, really good doctors, and I don't want to portray them all with one big broad brush. But I also noticed that there are doctors, I think, out there who know that there's more to healing than just treating symptoms. I run into these doctors all the time. In fact, we've had a couple of them on the show who said, yeah, look, I had gotten to a point where I recognized it was more than just treating symptoms and trading symptoms for drugs. But you spend a little time in your book talking about the role of medical politics, essentially, and how the parameter of medicine used to be to do no harm, but now it seems to be toe the line, be orthodox, or get out of the way. I think the fear that doctors live with in today's organized system, and I say organized in air quotes, is real. I think there is a great deal of fear amongst doctors, is there not?
We've got a tremendous number of doctors that would like to be more vocal, but they fear the reprisal from their own community and from the drug companies themselves and the AMA. Certainly, they've got an income. Their lives depend on their practice. So they live a tortured life because they're living a life that's not totally true, and they want to run under the radar. They're trying to learn what they can about natural health and help patients with some natural health. They can't be open about it. And again, we're supposed to be living in the land of the free, home of the brave, but they're not free. They're not free at all. They're dictated to, what they can and what they can't say. In the state of California, for a doctor to use anything, a medical doctor, use any other protocol other than chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery, they can be charged with a felony. Not only can they lose their license to practice, but they can be incarcerated. So there's no wonder that a lot of them, even though that they know that it's not good, it's not right, it's fear-based. And they're fearful for what happens to them.
And before we go, I want to ask you an important question about your book, Life or Grave Danger. Not many people who put together the kinds of formulas you have with the kind of background and efficacy that you've demonstrated over the years put together such a book like this. I'm just curious, what motivated you to put this book together? Because there isn't a week when I don't go back and read something from Life or Grave Danger and learn something.
It's a compilation of things that I've learned by people that were a whole lot smarter than me. It took a number of different doctors and scientists and that all giving me pieces of the puzzle that it all came together. But it was all predicated on getting right back to nature and understanding that we have to be in alignment with nature. Everything that we need in this world comes from nature. Anytime you've got to manufacture it, chemically denature it, or clone it, or isolate parts of it, you've denatured something and it can never function properly. Again, it's the old story, and I've mentioned it probably in a number of series. It's the scientists that got together with the express purpose of making seawater. And scientifically, they had all the equipment that they could make it so perfect that the most powerful equipment could discern no difference between the real seawater and the man-made seawater. Scientifically, they were identical. But you see, there's things in nature that the master doesn't reveal. So when they did the ultimate test, they put fish in it. The fish swam in the regular seawater, and the real seawater died instantly when introduced into the man-made seawater. So science isn't always perfect, but nature is.
Folks, once again, you have been listening to the Wellness Express here on the Airtime American Network with Doug Widdifield. So give us a call, 702-540-5668. That's if you want to begin your wellness journey today. Listen, Doug, your book is fabulous, Life or Grave Danger. It is always a pleasure having a conversation with you about wellness, about health, and of course about our disease-ridden healthcare system. Let's just say that. Pleasure being with you. Thank you so much. Let's do it again real soon.
You got it. Thank you, Anthony. Have a great, blessed day.
Many thanks to you for listening in at home. You can also stay in touch with the Wellness Express by following us at facebook.com/ZenusHQ. Check us out on Twitter at Zenus Global for all the updates and more. Remember, the greatest gift you can give your friends, your loved ones, is the lessons we share about the healing powers found in our bodies. So send your friends, family, and colleagues a link to one of our shows and let their journeys begin. This has been the Wellness Express. The consultation's free, direct from Nature's Pharmacy. We'll be back again next week, and please, in the meantime, stay well. Please be advised that statements made during this show have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The information provided herein is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose nor treat any illness, nor does it suggest or imply a cure for any disease or chronic condition. In fact, you should always consult a physician and or healthcare professional before starting this or any nutritional program to determine if it is right for your needs.